with audio. So when
Precincts.
You're on.
yes.
Good.
Through the precincts. Oh, the precinct.
I'm gonna have to bail before, unless it's gonna be, is this gonna be a short one or?
It should be.
Okay, okay.
Good morning, everyone.
Yeah, it's
It is of the hour of 10 a.m. on January 14th, 2022. And we are ready to start our Jobs Committee meeting.
I forgot what-
Roll call, please.
Iqbal. Kopi.
Kopi's present.
Lewis.
Lewis here.
Molina.
Molina present.
Wallace.
Wallace here.
Ford.
Board present.
Davis.
Davis here.
All right.
Kirog is here.
Jepro is here. Please call our names.
All right. Can I get approved?
Can you call our names?
Oh, go ahead.
Gerard.
Here.
Shepro.
Jepro present.
All right,
Thank you.
Thank you. Can I have approval of minutes from December 17th, 21?
Molina will move.
Wallace
Lewis
second.
second.
All right, I got a move by Molina and a second by
Lewis.
Lewis. Thank you.
Or Lewis.
Any questions or comments? Seeing none. Clerk Caldwell.
Iqbal.
Iqbal present.
Kopi.
Kopi, yes.
Lewis.
Lewis, yes.
Molina.
Molina, yes.
Wallace.
Wallace, yes.
Ford.
Board, yes.
Davis.
Davis, yes.
All right, moving forward from our reinvestment community office, our workforce development.
Good morning, Mr. Ford and
Good
members of the
morning.
Jobs Committee. Good morning. My colleague Maria Gonzalez is with me today, and we have our usual battery of financial reports for your review. Before I turn it over to her, I just want to mention that we are at the midpoint of our program year. Again, a reminder, our program year begins on July 1. So the new year, 2022, actually marks the middle of our program year, and we are currently in the process of evaluating the standing of our program. We do have some benchmarks to satisfy by the end of June, and we expect to be working with our Workforce Development Board to identify some additional contracting opportunities, some training opportunities. We're in dialogue right now with our 3 community colleges to discuss some opportunities to get some folks enrolled in some programming and get some dollars out the door. So more later on that, we'll likely have a resolution for your consideration at a future meeting, authorizing some additional contracting under our program. But at this point, I would like to turn it over to Maria and ask her to walk you through our financial reports. Maria?
Thank you, Scott. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Starting on page 3 of your packet is the Wioa 20 grant. This grant we have until June 30th to make sure that we fully spend down the funds that we were allocated. As you recall, we have that direct training percentage of 50% that we have to achieve. And I noted, if you remember, in previous months, we kind of dipped below that as our new staff members were getting acclimated with their positions. During the month of November in the reporting, it did go up from the previous month. It is still a smidge under the 50%, but it did increase from the October percentage, and it's now at 49.7. So I mean, if the state looks at it as a whole number, they would round it up to 50. I mean, it's still not at a place where we're comfortable with that. Ideally, we would like to see that training percentage above the 50. So that is something that the program team is working on. And now that the new staff members are more comfortable and more acclimated in their positions, the activity flow is increasing. The youth funds for this carry-in grant will be fully spent by the December reporting. I am happy to state we are still working on the adult and dislocated funds. That's, kind of what Scott was starting to talk about. As a team, fiscal and both program, we have been getting together to talk about the state of our funding and what can we do to ensure that we hit our necessary benchmarks, which as we brainstormed and talked things through, there will be, we came up with some ideas for opportunities. Starting on page 4 of your packet is the Wioa 21 grant. This grant started on July 1st of 2021, and it's the first year of the 2-year cycle. By the end of June, this is the grant that we are required to attain the 80% obligation benchmark and also the 50%, which as we monitor everything, that's why we decided that a collective team meeting was important to have. And then now we also got the executed grant agreement for our new trade grant, which is on page 5 of your packet. As you will see, we have incurred some expenses already, and we have until September 30th to ensure that we fully spend down this grant. Are there any questions?
Go ahead, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Ford. Are there special training programs now for our truck drivers? Has that gone out? Is that part of your outreach?
Actually, Madam Chair, this is Scott Berger. Truck driving is the #1 area in which we train. We have more customers enrolled in truck driving programs than any other service typically. I can explain that is likely because the truck driving curriculum to achieve a CDL license is a rather quick and short process and leads to a surprisingly good paying job. So it does present itself as an attractive career path for a lot of our customers. Keep in mind, the bulk of our dollars are connected to customers that are making their own decisions regarding their career path, what they want to pursue, what direction they want to go. The Chicago metro area's position as the nation's hub, transportation hub, makes it especially attractive in terms of pursuing a career in that field.
That's exceptionally good news. And what is I heard that the average starting salary hovers around 70,000, and it can
I
go
believe
up
it's
to 200,000.
I believe it's lower than that. That would be at the upper end, I believe. However, companies are really hurting for employees right now. And so I would expect that they are willing to pay a premium to onboard drivers.
And one final question, Scott. Is there a wait list to get into these programs?
No.
No.
No, in fact, we're pursuing avenues to attract more people into our programming. I think Chris Toth has talked to you recently about, in your recent meetings, about the Great Resignation. In general, we're having a challenge regarding attracting folks into our program, attracting businesses to participate in our programs. Generally speaking, there's a hesitancy to participate. So we're trying hard to overcome that right now and looking for ways to attract more participation in our programs.
Okay, all right. Thank you for that clarity. I appreciate
You're
it.
welcome.
Any other questions or comments?
Davis for the question.
Go ahead, Davis.
I heard you say that this program was relatively quick, and not to be a wet blanket on something that's successful and we're looking for more people, but just how quick? Because the same ramifications, things sort of come to mind there.
So a lot of our programs involve helping people pursue an associate's degree. And so that can be a 2+ year process for folks to get that degree. In the case of truck driving, the curriculum is just a few months. So by comparison, it's a much quicker route to a job.
Okay. So relatively speaking, there's still a few months involved. I'm happy to hear that.
Correct.
Thank you.
Correct.
All right, any other questions or comments? Seeing none, thank you for the reports. We're gonna move on. I don't have any comments as a chair, except for I'm really looking forward to I really appreciate the participation we had in December in our meeting. And I'm really excited about our agenda for 2022 because of that. You all allow our staff to put together a more of our acting items for in the future. So, any comments, Davis?
I would echo what you're saying, Ron. We've really had a lot of wonderful participation and collaboration. I still have in my mind, as we move forward, the idea of trying to reach out to kids that are in school still and help deliver some of these messages about the jobs world, and that not every career path is, white collar, suit and tie, that there are really good vocational approaches to making a living and owning homes, raising a family, that kind of thing. And if we're able to, work with Regional Office of Education and local schools and find ways to get some of that message out to kids that are still in high school, I'd love to see where we can go with that over the course of this coming year.
All right, thank you. Any other, moving on from there, we're going on to our reports, our updates. Got it, Chris.
Thank you very much, Chairman. As we wait for the slides to come up, I just wanted to piggyback a little bit about what Scott and Madam Chairman were talking about. Two things to remember about trucking is the average age of a truck driver in America is over 50 years old. So that's one of the big pushes to get people into truck driving. And the other thing, even though I still believe the technology is 30 to 50 years away, in the last 10 years, one of the biggest hindrances to truck driving is the potential of automated trucks and the impact on future careers that it may have on people that has been to a detriment of attracting new people into the career. So I'm just glad that Scott and his team are continuing to add it because we need more truck drivers. So today, just a couple quick updates. I'm really glad the co-chairs brought this up. Let's see if I can get this to move. There we go. So I just put together a quick list of all the topics we discussed last month. I really want to continue to encourage board members to send ideas and topics directly to me or through the co-chairs or to anyone, just so we can keep a list going as we create the schedule. The one I added was the top one was just wage trends. I didn't hear that, but that's something I'm keeping an eye out in terms of everything that we do moving forward. We just talked about veterans in the workforce, the pivot from the side job or side gig to full-time work, how jobs and careers are changing, the need for continued union labor, having some education professionals come in and speak, hearing about local economic development issues from local elected officials, technology and business incubators, pre-apprenticeship programs, transportation issues, daycare/childcare issues, healthcare careers, and then introducing the trades and skills at home. Moving on to just something else, it was brought to my attention. We're keeping an eye on this so we can share it with our constituents once it's launched. But Grubhub and the United States Hispanic Chamber of Commerce are putting together a small business grant for Hispanic-owned restaurants affected by COVID. The grants will be about $5,000 to $10,000, and they're going to give about 300 nationwide. They're aiming for major metropolitan areas, and Chicago was on the list. So that's something that we're highlighting so that when we get the full information, we can share that out, and hopefully our businesses will be eligible and can apply. It's been a few months off, so I want to bring back our unemployment rate. We're still trickling down to the low fours. The gap between King County and Illinois is starting to close, but we're still substantially ahead of the state. And as of December, the U.S. unemployment rate now sits below 4%. So all good news. Then it goes back to some other bad news. We just got the November report that the quitting rate has surged to 4.5 million Americans in November. Some believe that that's a confidence in the labor market and that higher wages will prevail. I tend to agree with that, but it was an increase of almost 400,000 people who quit. The industries that have the most quitting are the ones that typically have to do with either sick people or working with people in person. So accommodation, food services, healthcare and social assistance, and transportation, warehousing, and utilities. And the transportation, warehousing, and utility sectors is the one that's a bit scary just because of we're hearing more and more reports of empty shelves and just some more interruptions in the supply chain. It's also natural because it's the winter. So just something to keep an eye on. I've avoided this topic for a year, but I do have a year's worth of data to share with the Jobs Committee, and it's just the level of inflation in the United States. It peaked at 7% at the end of the year. You can see the growth trend throughout the year. It was rather rapid, and it's continuing to trend upward. There's been projections all over the place about what's going to happen in 2022. It's really dependent on the Fed's reaction to inflation and potential raises in the interest rate. A lot of talk about that, but unfortunately, until there's action, I can't make any predictions. But I just wanted to share this data. The Fed tends to keep the target inflation rate at 2%. Last time it was getting to be this high was 1982, where it reached 15% roughly. It's up a little bit over last month, but it's up way over last year. The long-term average is about 3.25%. Why this matters, just when we talk about jobs and wages and inflation, there's a lot of conversations now about should people ask for inflation-based raises for their work, and the general consensus is no, they shouldn't, just because the impacts of inflation are so wide-reaching that even if most people ask for it for their job, it wouldn't make too much of a difference in the short term, depending on the long-term effects. And then just a couple quick charts. When I've gone to, in about 6 years of going to the Fed, giving out economic projections for the year, one of the things that we always keep an eye on is car prices, car sales, used car sales, and new car sales. And in 2021, used car prices spiked. I'm going to guess it looks to be roughly around 37%. So that's something to keep an eye on. I've read stories now about people who have been test driving cars and had someone else purchase the car while they're driving, or you have 30 minutes to make a decision before someone else buys the car. So inventory is low. I know I keep getting spammed with emails. Someone wants to buy my car back. So just another indicator to keep an eye on too is something we haven't heard much of lately, but it's going to be a huge problem moving into 2021, which is the increase in rents. We're seeing as much as almost 15% in some parts of the country, but nationally it's looking to be about 13% increase over the last 6 months. And again, it's just something to keep an eye on because there's always been a push for more and more housing stock, but we tend to forget that the renters are out there too. And when you see that the rents have gone up over 10%, that's tends to affect people on the lower end of the economic scale. So if people's rents are shooting up that quickly, it could have another negative impact on the economy. And I just wanted to list a couple of things. Like I said, used cars have gone up 37%. Car rentals the prices have gone up 36%. Hotels have gone up 27%. Meats are up anywhere between 10 and 15%. Again, it's just something to keep an eye on as we talk more and more about wages and how people are quitting their jobs in search of better pay to match what's reflecting in the economic data that's really coming out with all the trends from 2021. With that is my presentation. So I would love to take any questions if anyone has any.
Any questions? Any questions or comments?
Very interesting.
Yeah, it is. I have one for you on the business grant for the Hispanic-owned restaurants. Is there a timeline with that or what?
Thank you. No, there is not a timeline yet. The PR release just came out that the grant is being created. And so what I did was sign up for the information, and I will definitely update the committee as the grant goes through its motions to come live. So that way we can share it with our Hispanic-owned restaurants in Kane County.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
So Chris Toth, what's the glass half full on the inflation used car thing? And that rent?
Well, if people who currently own cars, the value of their car has definitely appreciated in the last year. So that's been good. I like to say that the inflation raise has really challenged people to take the next step to increase their wages or to find better jobs, which is what we're seeing with the Great Resignation. Glass half full is these prices do benefit a lot of businesses. We are seeing record profits at some of our biggest multinational corporations. I guess that's their shareholders are stock markets as high as it's ever been. And even with the announcement last week that the interest rates are going up, we've only seen the stock market slide maybe 1% this whole week. So there's still a lot of optimism just in terms of the market in general. I think I don't want to take a side on what the impacts of the decision of the Supreme Court yesterday, but one thing we're going to see is just a level of certainty now that is going to probably move to the state levels for those decisions. So maybe that people will be making some decisions to go back to work. I'm optimistic at some point this trend of interest rates will just, or excuse me, inflation will just have to curve off. I mean, people maybe will start making different decisions in their big purchases, or maybe people will be holding on to less cash and there'll be more movement. But the glass half full is there's still potential for things to just kind of even out and slow down in this year. I wouldn't say there's a trend going up or a trend going down. It's kind of just month to month.
I feel better, thank you.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead, Mavis.
I have a question. Since Mr. Toss seems to be a very valuable source of information, usually when it's supply and demand, why are rents going up so much? Is there more demand, or is this just landlords making more profits?
That's a good question. It's a really complex issue. The timeline for when the rates started increase do match when the initial moratorium on evictions, thank you, evictions in 2020. And there were a lot of landlords that were scorned by that. So that is one potential, but also just the rising costs of utilities, water and electric. I mean, natural gas is up 30%. So some places absorb that cost or absorb the cost of other utilities into their rent. So that could be a driver of increase. Cost of living has just spiked in some areas. And yeah, there unfortunately are those landlords who just raise their prices to match the current inflation levels or higher just to increase the amount of money made. So yeah, that's something I'm looking into, but I don't have a really definitive answer. It's just a broad-based trend across the country where we've seen the rents everywhere just go up higher
Mr.
than
Chairman,
everything else.
Shepro,
Go ahead, Mr. Shepro.
not to defend the greedy, evil landlords, but in many cases, the apartments are stressed out because many municipalities don't want to build them or allow them. And right now, a lot of construction is slowed down because of problems getting materials. You drive around St. Charles, there was a restaurant that moved to the east side from downtown like 8 months ago, and they're just getting around to opening because they, couldn't get the parts they needed for their kitchen. And I think I know that's happening with a lot of new residential construction. And basically, if they're not coming on the market, the people who want someplace can't get them. It's kind of like the car situation. I don't know that people say, I want a used car. It's just that there have been a slow in production in the new car market, and thus the squeeze on used cars. Plus they're all being carjacked. But seriously, I don't think the price of used cars has ever been quite so high. And I'm another one who seems to get a call or a letter, 3 times a day, offering to buy my car, which proves they haven't seen it. But there have been articles, I think, increasing about the economy is increasingly stressed because of all of the problems with getting materials shipped from China, problems on the waterfront with shipping, and the cross-country shipping is all basically in kind of a downturn. And I think that's, and then things start to have a ripple effect. If you can't get the appliances for your new house, you don't build your new house, and then that starts to have a secondary market impact. Anyway, that's my thought.
Mr. Chair Gums.
Go ahead, Ms. Gums.
Hey there, I'm not a part of this committee, but I a lot of data to process here, and I like to dumb it down for myself, and I'm going to sum it up for Mavis. Greed is the answer to that question, and we have a stretched economy by a huge profit gaining marketplace. So it's not real that complicated for me, and it's disgusting, frankly.
One word.
I didn't hear who that was.
Oh, that was Bates, just saying that she had distilled it down to one word.
Okay.
Well, this is Scott Berger. Mr. Chairman, if I could just comment.
Go ahead, Scott.
Yeah, just so you know, the vacancy rate in Kane County has plummeted dramatically. And so I think we're like hovering just below 1% vacancy right now. Historically, it's been roughly around 7%. So that speaks to basically the supply and demand factor that's always at play. When the supply is low, the demand is high. You're going to see inflation.
Mr. Chairman?
Go ahead.
So do we have more people just coming to Kane County from maybe the city or someplace like that? Is that where the supply and demand is getting out of balance? Or are people losing their homes so they have to rent? Or is it too complicated to know? And I appreciate Mr. Shepro's comments about we should be building more affordable housing so people can find it.
I would say it's all the factors combined. First of all, you've got a population that is moving around less and less than they ever have before. Folks are staying in their homes. The available units are very low. You've got a moratorium that just ended that effectively suppressed the interest in renters to pay for rent. And so you've got the damage that does to the pool of landlords. And you've also got the comments that Mr. Shepro made earlier regarding supply, kind of a record low level of production in the housing market.
That's a lot of factors.
I just want to say there are a lot of factors. One that got to be taken consideration is, and mostly because of the price of rent, or also the job market. You don't have the youth leaving home at the age before. Either their parents need help with them staying there, or they need a little more time to get their finances together before they go looking for a place to stay on their own. Also, and it's not just the rent, it's everything else. It's utility cost with everything else. I have been meeting with a group of people in Aurora who are owners they all own 50 units or more. And you'd be amazed at their comments when it comes to the financial part. The thing about being a landlord, people automatically think landlords have a ton of money, but you'll be surprised at the problems they're having, especially with cities and trying to meet regulations and dealing with even with dealing with good tenants on trying to keep things rolling and dealing with the local government. So there's a lot of factors in place that needs to be worked out. And the problem that we're having is one is fighting against the other, and the outcome suffers the community. Chris, you had something?
Yeah. My intention of this was just to inform everyone, but I wanted to take a step back because two things. One is a good piece of news is Kane County was one of 3 counties in the state of Illinois that actually gained residents in the last census. So we're a little bit blessed, but a little bit cursed because we have an actual growing population. And 2, we were recently informed through a press release, the city of Batavia's One Washington Place project that had been in development for almost 5 years, which was an increased, I can't remember the number, but it was going to be an increase in density and more apartments for downtown Batavia, was canceled right before the new year. And the developer cited material costs as the big inhibitor for the project moving forward. So, there are attempts being made in different parts of the county in different forms to increase the housing stock and apartment stock. But there's forces on, again, it's not us against them. There's forces on, the government side, on the private side that are just hitting walls in terms of bringing more homes and apartments into the county. So we're facing a different challenge with that. That's what I wanted to say. But the other thing, to speak to what Ron just said, I've read a lot about how most people who are landlords typically are retired or are typically of older age, and it's as a second income. So yeah, when we say landlords, it's a very broad network of people that don't have really much in common. Thank you.
Comment, Shepro?
Go ahead.
First, Mr. Chairman, I thank you for your comments, and also to Mr. Berger. The greedy landlords had a moratorium. They couldn't evict people. People didn't pay their rent, but there was no moratorium on the greedy landlords paying their mortgages or their heating bills.
Right.
And so I think it's, I'm sure there are greedy landlords just as there were deadbeat tenants. I think it would be more productive for people to comment or to focus on some of the underlying issues that you identified, Mr. Chairman, and Mr. Berger did. It's a variety of factors. I don't think greed is the principal problem with the housing market right now.
No.
Yeah.
Good conversation.
Yeah.
Thank you for the conversation,
Yeah,
Mr.
yeah,
Chairman.
you're welcome.
Yeah.
Good conversation. So moving on, I don't think we have an update on the Economic Development Initiative. I don't see it on the agenda.
This is Mark Van Kerkhoff, if you can hear me.
Go ahead, Mark.
I have a couple good news updates on the regional efforts. CMAP has retained a consultant, a company called Theory into Practice Strategies. They have initiated their work on a strategic plan for the region. Concurrent with that, CMAP is also working with the Brookings Institute to look at the region a little bit different lens and refresh some of the previous work they've done in the Chicago region. Kane County has been asked to host a meeting later this month and invite leaders of private sector companies who operate on the national and regional level. So we're very happy to be doing that. That will also help us with connections for our own countywide effort, which we're hoping to have our funding secured so we can move ahead with doing our countywide strategic study and plan as well. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but I think you're going to see a lot happening on the regional level and at our own county level this year. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Moving on, I don't think we have any new business. I just want to bring up that we were kind of looking forward to maybe doing a roundtable discussion this year. We're going to try our best to keep it on the table. I really have played a part of those in the past and seen how they can make a good impact on communicating and networking. I will like to bring up maybe the opportunity of looking at, and I believe Davis brought it up, on trying to reach our youth and maybe looking at working with our district educational department on maybe doing some outreach by doing some type of a job fair or teaming up with other, because I see some things going out, but I don't think we get, I know the union does one every year and they have someone they work with. And I wonder if there are people out there that we can team up with and getting the word out and making sure that it reaches the schools on these jobs fairs. So I think that might be an effort that we can put forth to try to conquer. I think there's no public comments. Can I get a motion, unanimous motion, put the reports on file?
So moved by Davis, asking for unanimous consent on placing the reports on file.
All right. Do I get a second?
Second by Lewis.
All right, we got a second. And by being unanimous, there's no rejections on that. Seeing none, we can move forward. I believe we have no need for executive session. A motion to adjourn. Nobody wants to leave?
Oh, yeah, I was gonna say.
Where's my
Davis
opinion?
moves to adjourn.
All right.
Lewis second.
All right. No rejections? Seeing none, I thank you for your participation and your time. See you next month.